Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Jen Sorensen and I am about to dive into a delicious bowl of chili that I just made. And I happen to film the process of how I make it. It's a little different. It's a little hot too. I'm gonna put this down. It's a little different in that I don't use beans. This is not your traditional like Texas chili. I do add some unique vegetables to this and lentils and a few other things in here that make this a very unique chili. So if you are someone that is like die-hard traditional chili, this may not be your kind. And the other thing is I'm not the best at measuring when I cook. So I give you approximations and I also talk through a lot of things that you might be able to do to alternate this recipe and make it your own, because that's really what it's all about. So it's about the technique. It's about what I do, the process. I use the Instant Pot, but you could use a Dutch oven. You can make this on the stove. You could use a slow cooker, a crock pot, something like that. I give some examples of what you can do to really make this recipe unique, but it's just a different spin that I thought you might like and would like to see how I go ahead and make it. So without further ado, let's jump in and make this chili. I'm gonna eat this bowl right here, and then we'll come back after I've polished this off and after I've made this, and we'll kind of wrap things up. So I'll jump right in. All right, we are diving into another passion of mine, cooking. I have talked about my chili recipe on the Runners Without Limits podcast before. This is not your typical chili. It's very different. So in here, I've got a little bit of olive oil. This is my Instant Pot. You can do this in a Dutch oven, on the stove, whatever you want. And I have pureed in my mini food processor here. I've got one yellow onion, and I've got one red bell pepper, as well as 2 garlic cloves. Probably could have warmed this up a little bit more. I have my Instant Pot on Sautee. So I'm going to saute up these peppers and onions that have been pureed. And the reason I do that, you can chunk them up. I like the flavor of peppers and onions. I don't love the texture. So by pureeing it, I get a very different texture and I still get all the flavor. Could be a good way for you to get some veggies in for your kids if they don't like that. So we'll come back because I probably should have heated this up a little bit more. As I said, I've got this on saute, and we are going to saute this up and cook it up before we start adding our meat. All right, this is what I wanted. I've got my peppers and onions sauteing nicely and just cooking that rawness out. We're not going to reduce it down or do anything, but what I do want to add now is some tomato paste. I love this stuff in the tube instead of the can because I can never use up the can in time. So I'm going to add about a tablespoon or so. This is my interpretation. I make my chili all the time in many different ways. And I just like to do things that are a little bit different. What I do like to do at this point as well, while things are cooking up, is I start to add some seasoning now. I'm gonna start with a little bit of kosher salt and just a pinch. You know, that's probably half a teaspoon or so. This is going to make a giant batch of chili, so that's not gonna do much. I'm going to add some red chili flakes now. I like mine spicy. I'm sharing this with people, so I'll bring some over to my parents' house for my mom. So I'm not gonna make it too spicy. Otherwise, I will also sometimes, if it's just me, I will puree up a jalapeno, seeds and all, when I am sauteing up the pepper and onion. So add some of that. I'm gonna add some chili powder here. And what I'm doing, I'm gonna keep adding some of this stuff. That's not coming out very well. Here we go. I gotta get a knife to de-chunk it. I live in such a humid area that these spices sometimes get a little bit chunky. So I will add in chili powder, and next up will be a little bit of cumin or cumino. So I'm gonna add, and again, this one's It also doesn't help that this is steaming up here. So add some cumin. So I probably just added about a 1/4 teaspoon of cumin and about, I don't know, a 1/2 teaspoon of chili powder. And I'm gonna season as I go because, ooh, that's bit up on me. All right, I like to season as I go because I can always add, but I can't take it out. So I'm gonna start now. And you can kind of see how this is thickening up a little bit, how it's kind of not, if this were the back of a spoon, the French would call that nappe. So we got that. Now we're gonna add our meat. I do, and this is from a local farm nearby, ground bison. You can do whatever meat you like. I like bison because it has so many good nutritional qualities to it. It's leaner than beef, but it has so many additional vitamins to it and nutrients that I love it. But it kind of tastes, to me, it tastes almost identical to beef. Others, it might have a little bit more of a gamey flavor to it. You could use ground beef, you could use ground turkey, you could use chicken. You can make this all vegetarian, and I'm gonna add some stuff in here that is going to be fascinating to some of you as I get this out of the bag here. I'm gonna add 2 pounds of meat. Now, this chili I love having on top of a chili dog. So to me, you may want to brown your beef first or do something in a different order. I like to do it this way because then it gets very finely ground up and browned versus big chunks. It's a personal preference. You'll hear me talk about what I like a lot. And let's give this a little bit of a, break this up. Don't worry. With all of the veggies in here pureed, it really helps make this nice, soft, meaty texture to this. We'll get 1 more pound here in. And I think I'm gonna cut down the edges. Make it a little bit easier to get this in. I probably should have done this beforehand. But okay, so we will get that in. Throw that packaging away, and I'm gonna wash my hands. Okay. All right, hands are washed, and I am just going to keep kind of pushing this around, getting the meat all chunked up. I'll hold on to this handle here. And really having the ground veggies in here is gonna help me with my texture. Because I can kind of just push them all together, and I wanna cook this meat completely. At this point, and you can see I'm kind of pushing with the back of my spoon to kind of break up the meat and mix it in with the vegetables. You could add in ground carrots if you want a sweeter chili with this to add more vegetables to it. You know, you can do really whatever you want. Make this your own. There's gonna be a few surprise ingredients coming up. So, you know, if you don't want, you can make with Impossible meat, some of the vegetarian, vegan options, because outside of the meat, I'm looking at everything I have here, yeah. Outside of the meat, everything I have here is gonna be vegan. So you could substitute whatever meat you want to make it vegetarian. All right, let me saute this meat up a little bit more, and then I'm gonna bring you back here to put everything else into the pot before we turn this onto the chili stew soup setting to pressure cook this a little bit. That honestly has not taken very long at all. You can see how it's really kind of just falling apart. You can see here, kind of look, I don't know, I look at this and I see sloppy joes in a way, which you could actually just kind of add a little bit more sauce and turn this into a sloppy joe mix if you wanted. Stop right here, and I'm gonna add now some sriracha. Told you I like it a little spicy, so add a little bit of sriracha, and this is going to be good. Now, this is where I'm gonna get a little crazy. My next ingredient, riced cauliflower. Yes, that's right. This is straight from the freezer, frozen still. And this is the reason I like my meat finely ground. And a little bit came out there. We go. Is that I want all of this to have a very similar texture. So this cauliflower here is another great way to get veggies in. And you can see as I blend it in, it's kind of just taking on the consistency and kind of becoming one with that ground meat. You're never gonna taste the cauliflower itself, but you've got those veggie nutrients in there. Next up, I am going to add in about half a cup to 3/4 of a cup of dried lentils. And I'm gonna kind of do this over my hand here, make sure I don't have any rocks or anything. I don't know what that is. So I like to sort these out over my hand just to kind of make sure that everything's good. These are dry lentils here. I love lentils. So yeah, I mean, I'd say that's probably about half a cup right there of dry lentils. Again, this is just going to take on the texture of the chili. So you're hearing me talk about texture a lot here, and that's why this meat is really finely ground. So the lentils are going to add we're not going to add other beans, although I have been known to add chickpeas or garbanzo beans to this. You can kind of hear the dry beans clunking. Okay. That's it for the meats and all of that stuff. So now we're gonna add our sauce. I'm gonna add 1 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. So 1 can of crushed tomatoes, which you can see what I've got here. And then I have 1 can of San Marzano tomatoes. And this is just what I had right here, you can see. What I did was I went in with my knife, and you can do it with scissors as well. And I just kind of chop them up a little bit. So I basically want some more whole bits of tomato in here, and I want the sauciness of it. So I've got a good combination. So as I get this incorporated here, I want to mix this up. Get those cans out of the way. Let's mix this up, and at this point, I think I want to add a little bit more seasoning. Those tomatoes are really bright. They're really acidic. So I'm going to add a little bit more chili powder. I am all out of red paprika. Well, paprika's all red. So I'm out of paprika, otherwise I would add that, but that's where the red pepper comes in. I'm going to add a little bit more cumin. I don't really measure a lot of stuff. I'm not gonna add more red chili flakes just because that can add a lot of spice, and I added the Siracha. So at this point, I'm going to put this into a pressure cooker mode. I'm probably going to, let me come over to the front here to see what I want to put this on because I can't really see. I think I'm going to put it on, make sure it's in the sealing mode. We're going to turn that off. Bean chili mode, 30 minutes, that should be fine. Make sure if you're using the Instant Pot, you're pushing that all the way back so that it seals up. If you are using a Dutch oven, excellent, it's warm. If you're using a Dutch oven, then you would probably just cook this on low for a couple hours, 2-3 hours, whatever you need. I'm gonna watch this too because I was just simmering. In the past, I've had it go into burn mode because it's so warm on the bottom. So I'm gonna stay really close to this. I may give this a little stir in a minute or two before it seals up, we'll see. I don't wanna open it if I can help it, but I wanna really pay attention to what this is doing. So I will come back in a little bit with you to see how this looks after we're done, and if we need to adjust any seasoning, because you never know with how spicy the Siracha is, how spicy some of the seasonings are, what's going on with the tomatoes, how acidic they are. So we'll come back and we'll adjust as needed. All right, 30 minutes later, let's see how this looks. Whew. All right, so we are still pretty red from the tomatoes, but ooh, this smells fantastic. Might break up a few of these tomatoes a bit more as I stir this here and there, but let's see. I want to give this a taste. This is going to be scorching hot. So I'm just going to kind of get just a tiny bit on my spoon here, cool it down to see if we need to adjust the spices. The anticipation is killing me. Cool this thing down because that's hot. Okay, it's got a good amount of brightness to it from the tomatoes, the acidity there. I think it needs more cumin. It's got a little bit, good balance of heat between the Siracha, and that's probably another teaspoon or so there. It definitely needed that cumin though. What I do now at this point, this just has this great consistency that you can see here through the steam, which I'm sure is a little annoying, but also, oh my gosh, I'm giving this to you real time. Okay, so I've added a little bit more cumin. What I'm gonna do at this point now is just let this sit in slow cooker mode. You know, you can eat it now if you want it. I wanna let some of those spices meld together a little bit more. So I'm gonna do that. I'll probably, I don't know, half hour. Well, I mean, lunchtime is in probably, let's get that down. Lunchtime's in a little over an hour and a half. So I may just kind of keep it in slow cooker mode for a little bit. And I'll come back and enjoy it, and I'll let you guys know how it tastes. But I can tell you this is fantastic on hot dogs, on chips, tortilla chips, any sort of stuff like that. So we'll see how this looks in a little bit on slow cooker mode. All right, here is the final product, and I'm gonna scoop some out. Let's see if I can do this without spilling everywhere. There we go. Yeah. All right, let's see. I'm just gonna pay attention to what I'm doing here for a second. All right. I'll get a little bit more for myself because this is a nice big bowl here. I'm going to add a little bit of cheese, I think. Just a little bit. You can see at this point the lentils here, they're nice and cooked. Yep. They still have a little bit of a bite to them. And then I don't know, I'm debating, I might add a little bit of sour cream as well. Well, that was good. I definitely enjoyed that. This time around, I added just a little bit of cheese to it. Nothing too fancy. I opted not to do with any sour cream or tortilla chips, mainly because I don't have any tortilla chips, but that is always fantastic in here. Adding a little bit of salt to it at the end, I think really helps make it and bring all the flavors together. It was just the right amount of spice for me, not too crazy. You know, maybe every now and then I might add a little bit more, but overall, I love this chili so much. I hope you guys do too. Let me know if you make this or something similar to it, or even if you just be like, I like the idea of adding a little bit of cauliflower rice to my chili. I'm gonna do that versus just following the entire recipe, which is what I think we can all do, is just take little bits here and there, learn and adapt. I hope you guys get out there, create something beautiful, or in this case, something very tasty. I will see you guys real soon. Have a fantastic day.